So continuing our discussion on policing power, we just talked about zoning ordinances, and there are some further items here. So zoning permits. Typically before a building permit is issued, if something needs to be changed with the current use or the zoning use, we have to apply for a zoning permit. Now, if we need a permit, sometimes we might be able to simply just apply, and many times we might have to go in front of a board of appeals, a ZBA in many jurisdictions, and present our arguments as to why we think we need an exception to the zoning or a change to the current use, and so on. Sometimes in areas, it might be a lot more difficult depending on how the area receives those changes. So, when you're dealing in urban environments, some are very, very fast. They move fast, and you're able to get things done pretty quickly. And in other areas, when you're looking to build or do some changes, it's a little bit different. The smaller developer, the smaller investor might have a bigger hurdles to overcome than the larger developers. The bigger developers have a lot of more influence, a lot more cash to be able to throw into other funds to be able to offset some of the items. So when you get into the world and understand the world of development, there's a lot of those exceptions that do come up, but you would probably have to go in front of a ZBA and present. Couple of more vocab phrases here. Things like non-conforming use. So many times a lot or a parcel doesn't conform to the existing zoning ordinances. As zoning moves, it's not a static thing. It continues to change as we change. So we find that certain things are safer and better if we build them this way, or better if it's zoned this way. So we might update or amend zoning ordinances over time. Well, many times something might not conform to the new zoning amendments, and in that situation we call those non-conforming uses. Now, many times if the local jurisdiction will allow those items to continue on indefinitely, they use the phrase grandfathering to say that it can continue indefinitely until something major happens. Major meaning I do some major renovations to the property. The house or the property burns to the ground or is completely destroyed, or its use is abandoned or something changes, then the grandfathering might be taken away. Important as a real estate professional to always refer your customers or clients to professionals when it comes to land planning and zoning experts when they're asking about questions, as much of the city happens to be non-conforming. You'll see that word being thrown around all over the place. So you never want to falsely make misrepresentations to a consumer about what you can and cannot do with the particular zoning of an area. That's up to them and their other professionals to be able to determine. Always refer that one to a legal professional. Now, there's two exceptions that are usually granted, and one is called a conditional use permit or a special use permit, and one is called a variance. In essence, variances are exceptions to the zoning rules for various reasons because the owner can prove that they've been injured in some way. And conditional use permits are supplied by jurisdictions for certain specific uses. For an example, maybe a house of worship or a daycare center, those types of items will typically, you'll request for a conditional use permit. Those are uses in an area that have been pre-conditioned or approved conditionally that you have to apply for. So many residential communities would like more daycare centers. So our children are sort of being watched in the same neighborhood or same town. So we pre-approve those many times for use. But if somebody wants to open a daycare center at their property, they're going to have to follow certain standards and apply for a special permit to allow them to do that. They just can't set up a daycare center.